اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Ameen. So we're going to continue with the keys to understanding the Quran. If you all remember, I think most of you were with us, we started with the love of the Quran, and then why I am reading the Quran. And we've covered two things. We covered I'm reading the Quran to learn, and then I'm reading the Quran to practice. So today we're going to add two more things. It's supposed to be three, but I think the time will not be enough for three. So the two is the why you are reading the Quran. And this is how I will look at it. As you are picking up your Quran, whether you are reading the Quran in your salah, or you are turning on the Quran as you're driving, or when you are home, remember this reason, which a lot of us know it, but I don't think it comes to us when we are reading the Quran. It is a private conversation with Allah. It's an amazing concept when you think of it. So it's a private conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's called munajah. Munajah is basically, it's hard to find a one English word to give you the feeling, the same feeling when you read it in Arabic. You know, it's like love in English. When I say it's hub, I have the same feeling. But when I say munajah, I have to use more than one word. Munajah is, have you seen two people in love? Of course you have seen it, right? So two people in love, how do they talk? Right? Literally. Because why I'm giving you this example? Because unless you feel this, it's not going to come to the Quran. We always have to give examples from reality. So when two people are in love, when they are talking to each other, will they shout? Right? How do they speak? Softly, you barely can hear, right? And gently. The words they are using are gentle, and the way they say it are gentle, private, you know? And then you can say, you know what? They have a private conversation. So this is how it should be when I'm reading the Quran, because it's Allah's word, and it's a private conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to bring this as a theory. You know how we are always, even in medicine, we learn things theory, and then they teach us how to apply it, or we will practice. So, and I'm going to share with you, where did this come from? I mean, where did this come from? That basically reading the Quran is a private conversation, intimate conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Intimate. And this is what, and I shared these hadiths with you because these are not commonly, you find them. And it's nice for you to review. Now remember, these are all hadith. I put it in Arabic, and I put it in English, and I put you the sources. And we are sharing it online also, alhamdulillah. So the first one, in this hadith, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, and it's in Sahih al-Bukhari. And this is the first one you have in your handout. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, Allah, and I'm going to read it first, then I want you to feel it, and then I want you to look at where is the words that I want to learn and feel before I pick up the Quran. So I start the journey of understanding the Quran. A lot of people understand the Quran is the word tafsir. Even when they ask for classes, you know, it's like we want tafsir. Tafsir is beautiful, right? It's interpretation, it's commentary. Of course I need that. But before I need this, right, I need to start reading it. You know, even if I don't understand, let's just read it, even in English. Of course, in Arabic is better, but in English. So unless I put this back in me, then my relationship with the Quran will move from a habit I was taught when I was 2 and 3, something I read, and I said something. I read in Salah, and I'm clueless. I don't know what I am reading, or I don't even remember what I read, to a private conversation with Allah. Huge difference. So look what the first hadith is saying. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, this narrated by Abu Hurairah. And he said, he heard the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam saying, Allah does not listen to anything as he listens to the recitation of the Quran by a prophet who recited in an attractive, audible, sweet sounding voice. Let's say it one more time, because the next one I'm sure it's gonna come to you. Well, I'm not the prophet, right? So this doesn't apply to me. Don't rush. Next one will come to us, right? But this is in the beginning, and you will say, Subhanallah. I mean, of course, Rasul any messenger, Allah would love to hear their voice reading his words, but there is a specific addition to it. If you read, he say he would love to listen, or Allah does not listen to anything as he, meaning Allah listen, but then Allah listen. You know what it is? You listen, but there's something really attract your attention. You say, hold on, let me listen well. Right? Allah is exalted. So Allah listen to a prophet recites. Now here, the next is what you need to focus. Recite, we all do. No, this is not the reason. Recite in attractive, audible, sweet sounding voice. And in the Arabic says hasan al-sawt. So actually it's a sunnah that you beautify your voice when you read the Quran. I'm not saying you use a tone is not your tone, or you're like making it. It's your natural voice, but the best you can read. The best you can read. Don't imitate the Qur'an. You know, the beautiful voices Allah gave them, and they recite the Quran that we all know, because this is not you. You're making it up. Read it in your own voice. Think of it again this way. When you have a child, whether it's your child, whether it is your grandchild, whether it's your nephew, baby, when you talk to the baby, how do you talk? How do you talk? Baby talk. What is baby talk? Baby talk is beautiful, sweet voice in their language, right? And the baby looks at you and he starts either smile, laugh, or you get his attention, right? You don't use someone else's voice. It's your voice, and you talk differently. This is what Allah is saying, is he used his hasan al-sawt, meaning whatever Allah gave you, you beautify it to the maximum. If I want to beautify it, what does that need? Number one, it has to be slowly, coming to the heart. Absolutely. Number one is slowly, because when you read the Quran quickly, it's even the most beautiful voices that you hear, it's different when they read it slower than when they read it fast. Subhanallah, I mean, the most beautiful reciters, right, in Mecca, if you hear them in Taraweeh, amazing. Listen and wait when you hear them in Fajr outside Ramadan. It's like birds. And it's the same reciter. It's just because slower. Of course, they have to read a little bit faster in Taraweeh. Beautiful in Taraweeh, but more beautiful when slower. So hasan al-sawt. Improve your voice, even if it is one ayah. I'm not saying you're going to spend 2-3 hours a day. Ya Rabbi Ameen. Maybe one day we all will get there. But at least the ayah you are reading, and this is actually the best, is in your salah. Is in your salah. When you're at home, the 2 rak'at extra you do, any of these two, spend a little bit more time and you can hear it. Don't make it too loud, you hear it, because it's a private conversation. So that's the first hadith. Look at the next one that applies to you and me. And this is human beings. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam says, the Messenger of Allah said, Allah listened more attentively to a man mean a human being, you and me, she or a he, with a beautiful voice, who recites the Quran out loud, than the master of a singing slave listen to his slave. So this is a parable. So you have a slave, and somebody you have authority on, not necessarily slave, your child. You have an authority, right? And the child singing, right? And you're so happy because it's your child, right? Or even better, your child is reciting the Quran and you're listening, right? Especially if your child recite with the beautiful voices. I mean, you've seen some children, La ilaha illallah. I mean, I know a boy, 11-year-old, anytime they invite me, the mother knows that. It's not in St. Louis. Is like, this is the condition. I'm not coming unless he comes. Before we eat, he's going to recite something for me. And of course, he starts getting scared. I said, don't worry about memorization. Just open anywhere you want. Amazing voice. SubhanAllah. So the mother, of course, even if she doesn't show it, she's very happy. Now Allah is exalted. And you and me, even if we don't have a beautiful voice, but we do our best to beautify our voice, Allah will listen to us. Allah My creator, your creator, the owner of everything, the one who's capable of doing anything he wants, will listen to you or me. Just the fact I am reciting the Quran in a beautiful voice. Again, beautiful voice, meaning I'm taking my time. Remember these basics when you pick up the Quran. Even when you are listening, even when you are in a rush, remind yourself. Like we always, most of us, sometimes forget, A'udhu billah min shaitan rajim, right? I seek refuge in Allah from the cursed devil before I read. But then suddenly you say, oh, I didn't say A'udhu billah min shaitan. And then you say it right away. It brings it back because it became a habit. Let's make this as a habit. That when I read the Quran, I am going to make it slower and beautiful, as much as Allah gives me. So that's munaja. Number 3, and this is not a hadith, but this is a saying to Abdullah ibn Mubarak, a very righteous man. He said, سألت سفيان الثوري, another very righteous man. قلت, and he says, when a human being stood up in salah, what should his niyyah, his intention be? When he reads, a man reads the Quran in salah, what should his or her intention be? This is not in your handout. This is a saying, it's not a hadith. When a man stand up, or you and me, let's talk first, and then I'll tell you what he said. When we stand up in salah, and we are reciting the Quran, what is our intention?
To please Allah.
I would love to say that.
Isn't that true?
Is it that true always?
Doing it for
Exactly. We are doing it because we have to do it. It's part of my salah. I'm not saying this is wrong, but I need to bring an extra. I need to bring this back. So of course I'm going to go and pray and read the Quran, because otherwise, especially in my salah, for example, Fatiha, right? My salah will not be accepted. There's no salah. So I'm going to do it. But do I do it with this intention? Now what he answered. So he said, the man who stand up in salah reading Quran, what should his intention be? And he said, this is Abdullah ibn Mubarak. He said his intention should be private, intimate conversation with Allah. Private, intimate conversation. Now think of this. What is this has to do with understanding the Quran? You tell me and think with me. What is this? There is a concept that a lot of us are missing. The concept is, you do one thing to Allah, He will give you 10. This is something we all know. But if you do something for Allah with pure sincerity, anything, you will get things tangible, but we don't pay attention to it. Things you may have it or you may feel it before Akhirah, here. One of them is this. If I am going to spend time paying more attention, little bit extra to my Fatiha, I'm not going to tell you Al-Baqarah, little bit more, reading it beautifully, one salah a day, may Allah forgive me, but I have to be realistic, right? One salah a day, and each one of us, myself included, there is one salah in the day where I have more time. True or false? It could be Fajr for a lot of us. And some of us, Fajr is the hardest one, especially these days. If you have children, they're getting ready to go to school, 6:30 is your busiest time, right? But 8:30 is probably your quietest time because everybody is in bed. Or if you are a person who doesn't work outside the house, Dhuhr is your opportunity. You can do 30 minutes salah. So I'm not going to say which salah, but pick up one. Or it could be the extra, two, any nafil extra. Pick up one salah, your niyyah, I'm going to apply what this is said, that my intention will be to privately talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because I have to do it. It's my fard. Did you pray? Alhamdulillah. You know how we all do? Alhamdulillah, sallayt. As if it is may Allah forgive us, burden. Yeah. And it's done. That's how it is. That's even if we don't say it, our tongue is saying it, even if we don't mean it. Did you pray? Yeah. Right? That's how. Alhamdulillah, salli, alhamdulillah, I'm done. Right? So let's move to this. Right? And Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, and I love this, and I'm going to translate this, and I put beautiful in my book. And he says, if you want to benefit from the Quran, So that's the condition. That's what you want, which all we want. What does benefit of the Quran mean? What does the Quran will do to me? Let's say 1 + 1 = 2. We live in a society and we live in a time where everything I need to know what I'm going to get. May Allah forgive us, but that's true, right? So what I'm going to get from the Quran? Ya Rabbi Ameen. Change, Ya Rabbi Ameen, right? Number one, we all say, you know what? The reward, which we're going to come to it. Reward, alhamdulillah. Two, what do I want to do? How is the Quran will benefit me? Right? Put barakah in my time, put barakah, blessing in my house, put barakah in my children. I'll feel better. Sometimes I don't feel well. I just put Quran and listen. I feel better. This is all benefits, and more and more and more. And he says, if you want to benefit from the Quran, so this is the goal. Do the following. Number one, focus, bring your heart to it. Literally, he will say, bring your heart to it, because most of the time my heart is somewhere else. I'll bring another example of cooking, right? If you are cooking and not paying attention, even if you know the recipe well, the result is the same that when you are not distracted. I don't mean you have to read the recipe, but you're not distracted. So number one, bring your heart. So talk to yourself like, let's focus 5 minutes. Number one, bring your heart, whether you're reading or whether you are listening. Number two, listen carefully. If you are listening, listen. If you are reading, listen to your sound, your voice. Listen. And this is the most beautiful. Read it. This is what he's saying. The way that someone is paying attention, who is talking to him. You know, when sometimes you tell the children, look who's talking to you, right? Remember who is talking to you. If you get upset and you say, remember who is talking to you, what are you trying to tell him? Remember, I'm your mother, right? Or remember, I have an authority and immediately the child changes. So here he's saying, bring your heart, listen to what you are reading, and most importantly, remind yourself that who is talking to you, meaning bringing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His majesty. Same thing when you are in salah and you want to focus in salah. What is the easiest way? And I say the easiest. Just a minute, fraction of a second. Think Allah is looking at you. What's going to happen? You'll change immediately. That moment, or that fraction of a, right? That fraction of a second, whether you're in sujood, whether you're in ruku', whether you're reading. This is the same thing. When I am reading the Quran, I am going to say to myself, Allah is listening to me. And this is His talking to me and to me personally, not to everybody. And He sent the message to me. So remind yourself of this. Talk to yourself and say, come on in, my heart will focus. 5 minutes. So put the phone away. Close the door. I mean this, all the external distractions, which we all have. And I'm going to choose a time where I can focus. Probably one of the best times you can focus, you know when you're driving, when you're going to work back and forth, right? Because you know the way very well. Especially if you come into the highway in the time, the rush hour, and nothing is moving, right? Normally, what do? Either we're thinking, our brain going to this or that, or, especially these days, talking on the phone. It's my time to catch up on my calls. Don't. At least part of it. I'm not going to say all the time, and Allah will open more. So bring your heart, listen, think who is talking to you and whose word is this. Now, how do I bring this to me? And this is beautiful. How do I bring this? How do I keep reminding myself that this is an intimate conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? 5 things. 5 things. Number one, and I love this, Allah loves it when we are reading His words. Allah love it. Love when we are reading His word. Now think of this. You write a book. You write an email. You write a text message, right? and think you are going, meeting that person, and that person, he or she, young or old, reading your message and smiling. What's going to happen to you? You're gonna be very happy. You know, you felt you are special, right? That person is reading your. So imagine Allah looking at me and you reading His words, and He taught me and taught you that He loves us reading His words. It's not a fear. It's not I'm gonna go to Jahannam. I'm gonna be punished. It's not I'm gonna go to Jannah. It's not what I'm gonna get in Jannah. It's about love. He loves that the abd, you and me, His servants, listen to Him, reading His words. So the first thing when you bring the Quran again, you say, Allah is loving this moment of love. Two, and this always apply, Allah is looking at me. This is something we really have to bring it all the time to our life. Allahu ma'i, Allahu nadirun ili, Allahu shahidun alayhi. Allah is with me, Allah is looking at me, and Allah will be my witness in both ways. So the good ones, Allah will be my witness. The not good ones, Allah will be my witness. So Allah is looking at me, seeing me. Allah is listening to me. Same. So loves that I am reading His words. He is looking at me. He's listening to me. He's praising me. He's praising me because I am reading His words. La ilaha illallah. You know, we really need to bring these feelings to us when we read the Quran. Move it from the casual. You know, just read the Quran. We don't know why we are reading it and what are we reading. And the last one, that the more I read the Quran, Allah will give you. La ilaha illahu, how true is this? You just have to practice it. And giving, don't always think of giving material, money. Feeling good is the best gift Allah can give it to us. Just feeling in peace, feeling peaceful. Although everything around me is shattered, everything around me is upside down. Nothing is the way I wanted. The children is not what I want. My marriage is not going well. My job, I don't know what's going to happen. No job. They laid me off. I didn't pass my exam. Any of these. Didn't get to the college I want to go. Any of this. The Quran will give me things nobody else can give it to me at all. Try this trial, right? Anytime you don't feel well, you know, you feel lazy. Let's put it even this easy. Lazy. You know, you sometimes say, I don't feel like doing anything. You know this feeling? Now, where is my couch? And just let me there. And these days, get me my phone and let's go and look at social media, whichever one you do, right? And easily hour or two. This is basically complete of time, unless you're really learning something and you feel sad. You wasted your time. Nothing happened. Sometimes you say, I didn't even sleep. I wish I slept, so at least I will feel more rested. Any of these moments, or you're really feeling sad, Shaitan is going to come and remind you not to do it. Fight. And pick up the Quran and read one page. Just in the Arabic. I'm not talking about reading the meanings now. Just the fact you are reading the Quran. See what Allah will give you. But this needs practice. Needs practice and a lot of dua. Show me what you are teaching me. As I always say to Allah, show me what I am hearing, what I'm learning, what people say. I don't see it. Show me that this is real. And He will, La ilaha illahu, will show you. So bring this feelings, make your reading of the Quran living reading. Living. You're alive. You're living. It's something pumping when you're reading. And you are feeling and you are aware that you are reading the Quran. And who are you reading? Whose words you are reading? Who's looking at you? And who is hearing you? These keep them again and again and again. And this, by the way, will lead to the khushu' and salah. The aim that we all look for, and we think it's impossible. Because the more you focus on your reading of the Quran inside salah, the more your heart is there. The more you think Allah is looking at me, Allah is hearing me, I'm not going to think about something else in this life, right? Whatever that thing is, I just can't, because this is more, way more. So that's the private conversation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second is, or the fourth goal, so love the Quran, I read the Quran to learn, I read the Quran to practice. It's a private, intimate conversation with Allah. Fourth, which we all know, what is that? The reward, right? We all say, when I asked you like 3 weeks ago, and everybody was saying, oh, I read the Quran to have the rewards. Let's look at the rewards. Remind yourself of the basics, right? What is the reward I'm going to get from reading the Quran? Yeah, but what did Allah teach me? You all told me a reward. Give me a reward. Say that again.
1 letter, 10 hasanat.
Exactly. That's the first one.
First, yeah.
Right. That's the first one. And I have it for you, the first hadith. And this hadith is actually in a Tirmidhi. And says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the following. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, I'm sorry. He says, whoever recite or read one letter. This is in page 2, you have. Whoever recite or read a letter from the book of Allah, the Quran, he will be credited, he will be rewarded a good deed, right? With a good deed. And a good deed gets a tenfold reward. So 1 times 10. And then this is what it is really the best ever, right? And I don't say alif lam mim is a word, is a letter. It's alif is a letter, lam is a letter, and mim is a letter. How many letters in Al-Fatiha? Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. How many letters? Look at you. Right? Why I am not counting? Because I know this hadith, but I did not think of it. That means every time in my salah, which I have to, is non-optional, right? I don't have a choice. Every time I pray 5 times a day. How many ruk'ah? If I pray only the obligation, how many ruk'ah? 17, right? So that's 17 times I'm reading Al-Fatiha. So that's at least 170 reward. Assume 1 Fatiha times 10. Well, it's not 1 Fatiha times 10. It is every letter in Al-Fatiha times 10. You go and do the math. Right? So 17 in every letter in Al-Fatiha times 10. Billah. And this is even women these days, right? How many of us, a human being, follow the stock market? Up and down, and everybody talks about it, right? And I'm not saying it's haram, but I'm saying it is a reward. The stock market in reality is a reward, because you put $1 and then within a year, a 2, a month, a day became 10. And you didn't do much, you just bought a stock, right? Here you are, free of charge. You don't even have to know anything, right? And you have to do it, actually. It's not a choice. Because if I am praying, I have to say Al-Fatiha. And this is the first thing we taught our children. But when we taught our children this, we don't teach them this. We don't teach them that every letter, Al, Alif, Lam, Hamdu, Ha, Mim, Dal, that's 5, right? Times 10, that's 50. Times 17, you do the homework. Alhamdu, Lillahi Rabb, all this. Right? So just look at this hadith, which a lot of the Muslims know it, if they don't know the wording, but you know the meaning. So that's the thawab. Now this is going to make me do what? When will this really work? Here you are. Alhamdulillah Rabbil. You picked up the Quran and you're fine. And now you're applying all what I said. 2 lines later, shaitan is going to come to you. That's very common. And everything else is going to come. You know, I need to do this, I need to do that. Let me just go and do one thing and I'll come back. And guess what? You're not going to come back, right? This is where this hadith is going to come. Let's do one more line. This is how you fight back shaitan, who comes to you and he doesn't want you to read the Quran. Let's read one more line. And then remember, how many letters in this line? So times what? How much I'm going to get? talk to ours.
We don't pray because I mean, you're praying because you have, you're supposed to be praying, but you don't think about the rewards. You just pray because you have.
That's one of the reasons that I'll tell you what. There is two ways when you look at the reward. Either I'm trying to improve, I don't think of the reward. I'm sorry, there's two reasons I don't look at the reward. Either because whether there is a reward or there is not a reward, my salah will not change and my Quran is not going to change. We are not there yet. We're at not that level in relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, you know what? For example, when you love, let's say mother, or you love someone, right? And you say to them, you know what? Whether you're going to tell me thank you or you don't tell me thank you, whether you reward me, I am doing it because I love doing it. We're not there in that relationship with the Quran. That's what we are trying to build. We're trying to reach to that. That's why we have to remind ourselves of the material rewards till it becomes habit, till I love it, and then I'm not going to think about it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So remind yourself of this, especially when you are lazy. Please forgive me. When we are lazy, when picking up the Quran, and this is very common, picking up the Quran is difficult. Think of yourself in Ramadan, think it yourself now. Huge difference. Subhanallah, and I'm the same person. So that's one. The other one, and then you have it in your handout. And this hadith it says, and I'm going to read the English one because it's nice. Group of men went to Zayd ibn al-Arqam and they said to him, you have found goodness, you had the honor to live in the company of Allah's messenger. So the first thing, so this is a man who did not see Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, came to a man who he said, you had the goodness to be in his company. It's similar to someone never been to Mecca and somebody just came back from Hajj and you're going to say, I'm going to go and see what do they talk about. Let her or him tell me. So he said this to him. And you offered the prayers behind him. Ya Allah. He prayed behind the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. And tell us what was it? What did he tell you? What did you hear from him? And he said, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said the following. The one I put in bold is what the saying of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, behold, for I am leaving. This is the words of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam to you and me and the generation before and generation after. Behold, for I am leaving amongst you two heavyweight things, two valuable things, one of which is the book of Allah, the exalted and the glorious. Now that is meaning the Quran, meaning the book of Allah, is the rope of Allah. He who holds it fast would be on the right guidance, and he who abandons it would be in error. We all worry about the children growing up here. This is the most common question I get, the most common problems we are facing, right? And I always say, I don't mean it in this way, but don't blame them. Meaning, don't put all the blame on them. The time they are growing is very difficult. It's very different than when we were growing. Why I'm saying this? Because what does this hadith teaches me? It's the rope of Allah. The rope of Allah. Whomsoever abandoned it, meaning the Quran, Allah will abandon him. Who protect us? Who keep us in health? Who keep us focused? Who makes us successful? Back to the basics. Who? Allah. So if I abandon his book, what I am telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Fine. Abandon. So when I want my children to be protected, and we all want that, right? Do I teach them, make their relationship with the Quran as, and I'm not going to say better, as the relationship with the school and the homework? The answer is no. And I'm not talking about hifz. I'm not talking about the child become hafiz of the Quran. Ya Rabbi, Ameen. I'm talking about a habit a habit of reading the Quran. Hablullah is the rope of Allah. You're holding to Him. You're attached to Him. Of course, He will protect you and me. And this is, again, something we need to, even if it's never too late, bring it back. But most importantly, before I teach anyone else, I have to have this. How I'm going to give it to my friends or children or my colleagues or some people I know if I don't do it? If I don't look at the Quran as the rope to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and my child will not. He needs to remind, he needs to see me as a mother. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله كما صليت على إبراهيم وباركت على إبراهيم وعلى آله. Now look at the next hadith here. There is two companions were killed in Badr. Were killed in Uhud. So in the battle of Uhud, two companions were killed, right? So what do? They shroud them in one shroud, right? Then who's going to go to the grave first? And it's two at the same time. They are burying them in the same grave. Which one will go first? Exactly. That's what Rasulullah said. He said, bring the one who has more Quran. Why? Why? It's an honor. It's an honor. It's an elevation. Your status is higher in dunya, in this life, as we are going to the grave, let alone there. So it's an honor. We need to look at it as an honor. Alhamdulillah, we still have it. We celebrate when our children finish reading the Quran. Alhamdulillah, this is good. It's beautiful. Let's keep that and let's move it even to more. So it's an honor. Then the next one is actually applies to you especially. I'm saying you meaning or anybody who does not know how to read the Quran properly. The struggle, which is very common these days. Very common. La ilaha illallah. Even in the people who their native language is Arabic, they struggle, right? So this is what he says, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. And also you have, this is narrated by Imam Bukhari and Muslim. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, and this is on the authority of Sayyidah Aisha. He said, the one who is proficient, meaning eloquent, meaning reading Quran for him is, or her, very easy. And they do it beautifully, right? What's their status? That person, right? The one who is proficient in recitation of the Quran will be with the honorable and obedient scribes, the angels, with that level. You know, to feel this hadith, remember the usual thing we say. When somebody tells you, do this good thing, this, and this, and that, especially when it comes to forgiving people, giving more, at one point you say, you know what, I'm not an angel. Right? We always say, don't expect too much from me. I'm not an angel. Why? What does that mean? We always say this, I am a human being. And that's why Allah created me as a human being. What does that mean? Meaning things the angels do is not easy. And sometimes it's almost impossible for us. Reading the Quran fluently, professionally, beautifully, eloquently, I am, you will, bi'idhnillah, we will, with the angels, مع السفرة الكرام. Not any angels. Even the angels have statuses. مع السفرة الكرام. So now you're going to feel sad. Well, this is not me. I don't even know how to read it. Then the second one will make everybody smile. Everyone. It doesn't matter. And says the following. And he who recites the Quran and finds it difficult to recite. Where do we start? Right? Everybody. Reverts, new Muslims, Muslims grew up in a non-Arab world, even maybe in the Arab world, they don't read it very frequently. It gets difficult. Even in the Arabic language, if you do not practice, sometimes you read it absolutely not the right way. And he says, and that one who find it difficult, struggle to recite the Quran, what's going to happen? No. And the best way will have a double reward. Lahu ajran. Why double reward?
Reciting and struggling.
Exactly. Recite and struggle. And this applies to everything else, right? For example, let's say a woman is thinking of putting hijab, and you know how difficult it is. I'm not going to say it's easy. Absolutely, it's not. There's a lot of struggles, right? So the fact she put it on, that's a good deed. The fact she's going through all the struggles, internal before external, by the way, there's a lot of internal struggle, right? Shaitan comes to you, your nafs comes to you. What did I do? Everyone is looking at me. People will make fun of me, and on and on and on. That struggle by itself is a reward. 1 times 10. Don't forget that. 1 times 10. With the Quran, there is 1 times 10, and then every letter is times 10. Again, you do the math. So when I pick up, again, why I'm saying this, because all these are keys for me to start understanding the Quran. Because most of the time I find it difficult to read and I just drop it. I was like, this is too difficult. I know what I am reading. Well, Allah is telling me, keep reading. Keep reading. Even if it is going to be, subhanallah, I still remember, this is years ago. I sat next to a lady who was from an Arab country in Haram. And she does not know how to read. Period. Not Quran. Illiterate. I couldn't believe in this day and age, there's people who are still illiterate. And her 2 sons, one is a physician, one is an engineer. She said, I did my best that my children will not go through what I went through. SubhanAllah, she's from a small village, right? So I remember very well. And I said, what do you read in Salah? And she said, I know Al-Fatiha because that's what they taught me. And maybe the small surah. So I remember very well, I brought the Quran next to her. La ilaha illallah. To make her read 1 letter. It was forever because she doesn't know. She doesn't know. So imagine how much rewards this lady will have with all the struggles in this community here. I remember very well, 10 years ago, one of the sisters, I was teaching her. Literally, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen would take us 1 hour. Now, she's a teacher of Quran. 10 years. Teacher of Quran. Absolutely. So remember, the struggle, don't make the struggle. What does the famous line in this country we say? No pain, no gain. What is pain and gain is? Pain is the struggle. Gain is the reward. Why do we apply this for our daily life? When it comes to the Quran, I'm not interested, not either in pain or the gain. But for dunya, no pain, no gain. You tell this to yourself, you tell this to your spouse, you tell this to your children, you tell this to everybody, right? You don't like to get up for work, but you say no pain, no gain. Same thing, when you pick up the Quran, remember this. No pain, no gain. And the next one is very nice. تعلموا القرآن. Read the Quran. And so learn to read the Quran and read it. So learn to read the Quran and read it. And Allah made me remember these days, all of us, living anywhere in the world. May Allah forgive me, I'm not trying to scare anybody. But really, you will have no excuse. in front of Allah when we are standing. Why didn't you learn how to read the Quran? You name it, it's there. Sit, you have it, classes live. You can come and learn. You want online, you want recorded, you want CDs, you want iTunes, you name it, right? How many now there is the famous reciters who they have a child read after them and you enjoy it, right? How many classes here in this small, relatively small city, how many classes we have just to improve your reading, let alone to learn it professionally? Are we taking advantage of it? No. Why? Don't ask me. So remember this, تعلموا القرآن, learn the Quran, learn it, meaning put time, put effort, put it as a priority. فقرأوه, learn, read, وأقرئوه, and teach people to read it. So even if you know little bit and you're reading and you're teaching a new Muslimah, a new revert, the same thing. You learn, you practice, and you teach. And now he says why. فإن مثل القرآن لمن تعلم, and you have it in your here. The parable of that person who will learn the Quran and acts upon it is that of a sack, a bag, right, filled with musk, right, which spread the fragrance everywhere, right? Imagine, this is small. When you buy the small expensive perfumes, where do they put them? In a small, very expensive sacks, right? Sometimes silk, sometimes velvet, all this. Imagine if you pour that expensive perfume inside that sack and you're going to walk around. What is going to come out? Amazing. Look at you. Amazing. That's the parable, he said. The one who learned it, number one, read it, taught it, but mainly read it himself. When he or she walks like a musk, maybe I and you are not smelling it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And then he said, and the one who learned it, read it before he go to bed. No practice, no teaching. That doesn't mean there isn't much, but it is like also a sack. There is a musk, but the musk is not coming out of it. So it's locked. Why locked? Because it's in your heart. Who doesn't want to smell good? Right? Who doesn't want people to look and say, you look good, or you smell good, especially if it's a woman gathering and you say, right? Read it. So this is especially help you before you go to bed. Keep it next to you. Just pick it up, half a page. How long it takes to read a half a page? How long it takes? 5 minutes? Absolutely, right? 5? And if you want to do all what we learned, Allah is talking to me and I'm enjoying it, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, fine. How many 15 minutes we look at our phones and do everything else? Right? Now, last two things, because I wanted to share the last two things with you, is on the Day of Judgment. Especially this is when you're struggling to wake up in the night to read the Quran, because this is a struggle. And these days, not very much struggle. But when summer comes in, it's real struggle. Remember this. الصيام والقرآن يشفعان. Quran, reading Quran, and fasting will intercede for that person. They talk. And again, we said this many times. Everything on the Day of Judgment talks, except our tongue. Everything moves and talk except the tongue. So fasting, the act of fasting, and the Quran will talk on the Day of Judgment. The fasting will say, Ya Allah. They intercede for you and me. Again, when you want to fast on Monday and Thursday and tired and I have to work and I'm hungry, remember this. The fasting will intercede for you with Allah. Ya Allah, I made him hungry. I made him hungry. And the Quran will speak and says, Ya Allah, I made him not sleep well. That even applies for your Fajr Salah, because you're waking up and reading Quran. They will intercede. Remember that day? Now think of it this way. All these, you really have to bring examples from real life to make you feel it, right? Thunderstorms, and we lost electricity, which is not uncommon, right? When you find the torch, Allah, I was like, am I lucky, Ya Rabbi, lakal hamd. So remember, you try looking, opening the drawers in the kitchen. I think I have one. Where is it? And then you put looking, and finally one comes out. And you are like, you have the most expensive, whatever it is, right? Because this is going to make you see and make your life easy. Now, at the day of judgment, and you're in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you and I and everybody so scared. I don't know what is going to be in that book. I don't even remember. Who's going to come for my rescue? Nobody. Everyone will say me, me, me. And then Quran comes and says, Ya Allah, forgive her. She woke up in the middle of the night for me. What is it, waking up 15 minutes before Fajr and reading one ruk'ah, reading one page, half a page. You know what I'm trying to say? Bring these back to us so we feel it. Because the more we are doing it as a habit, it becomes boring. I'm sorry, it becomes boring, it becomes natural. It doesn't matter what's the big deal. But when I bring these to me, that's why I always, when I read hadith of Rasulullah, I try to envision something happening now, to bring it to me, that will help me to do it. And the next hadith, the person who does not have letters of the Quran in his or her mouth is like the house that is ruined. Dead house, ruin, Baytun Kharab, the house that is full of ruins. If you, as a human being, the mouth is like the house. If the mouth doesn't have Quran in it, again, حافظ ربي لك الحمد, but I'm not talking only about Hafal. I'm talking about any amount of the Quran that you keep reading daily. Then my house will be not. And the last one, I love that hadith. Alhamdulillah, Allah put barakah in the time. And he says the following, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, the parable of the believer who recites Quran. This is not hifz, this is recitation, reading. Who recites Quran is like a citrus, like the fruit, whose fragrance is sweet and taste is delicious. Every time you eat a fruit and you say, this is yummy, and then, you smell it. Usually, I don't know if you do this, but for apples, even for oranges, you smell and say, this is going to taste good, right? So the human being, the believer, you and me, Ya Rabbi Ameen, when we read the Quran, we are like that fruit. Tastes good and smells good. Now, and the believer who does not recite the Quran, but a believer, like a date. Every time you eat date, remember, like a date. Fruit has no fragrance, but has a sweet taste. Where is the sweet taste came from? From believing. So not too bad, but there's no smell. When you look at the date, if you give dates to people who don't know dates, they will. Did you see their faces? If you ever give a date to somebody who doesn't know what date is,
Yeah.
they don't like it because the look is not very, very attractive. And no, they usually bring it and smells like, no, thank you. Right? So this is you and me when we don't read Quran. This is why I wanted this, because this is very practical, something I see every day. So a believer doesn't read Quran is a date. Hypocrite who recite Quran is like a basil. What is the basil? Taste bad, sour, bitter, but smells beautiful. So the Quran always makes us smell beautiful, but the taste is bitter because there is no iman. Now the hypocrite does not recite Quran at all, is like what? It is a fruit that no taste and no fragrance. Nothing.
And the taste is bitter.
No, there's no taste. There's no smell, and the taste is bitter. Which one you want to be? For sure, by the grace of Allah, we didn't do anything for it. We taste good. And that's not my words, that's Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, because we have iman. Smell good is my job. I need to put the effort. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us of those. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه تسليما كثيرا. جزاكم الله خيرا. Next week inshallah we'll continue also بإذن الواحد الأحد.